So I am just on the BJJ Fanatics website, and what's amazing is now we've already talked about Gravity is Your Friend, but there are 2 other instructionals that you might want to talk about.
Recently, I had the opportunity to work with BJJ Fanatics guy, and now we have 3 instructionals out there. We have Escapes Engineered for guys over 40. If you're 40 or more, hey, dig into it. Gravity's Your Friend, sit-up sweeps. Been there for some time, and is really, really getting a lot of attention. And then we have the Smash the Knee Folding Pass. Now, that's one of my favorites. So if you haven't looked at them, take a look. BJJfanatics.com.
Hey, I'm wondering, do you have a place where we could go to ask all those questions that always come up in jiu-jitsu?
You are lucky. You are very, very lucky. Ask a Black Belt on all podcast platforms, plus our YouTube channel. What I do is essentially I collect questions that you might have and the questions that I've had for all this time being on the mat and record them as a short individual episodes, about 3-4 minutes long, and just put them out there several times a week. So make sure you go, you follow, and tune in.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out. Subscribe, download, all that stuff, and get those answers to the questions you've always wanted to ask.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we're live, but
Here
Gary's
we go.
not ready yet.
I'm totally
so let's
ready.
pause for a second and let's comment because give us some free time
ready.
so he can catch up with his life.
Looking up some important stuff. I just got this invitation. Something cool going on. Yeah.
Somebody likes you to send you an invitation?
It's only you, so no, nobody likes me. But what are we talking about
Are you here now? Oh,
I've always been here. I was actually looking up some things about what we're going to talk about. So,
okay. So what did you find?
well, I wanted to make sure I pronounce. I'm still going to butcher it, but we talked to Nick Salles, and we talked a lot about his partner Daniel Maia. I think is how you say Daniel's last name. Who, crazily enough, opened a jiu-jitsu academy in the middle of COVID. Not at the end, not after, not right before and somehow survived, but in the middle. When they realized things weren't going to happen where they were training and they wanted to continue to train, they decided to take everything they had up into that point and open up their own academy. And something he said that was super interesting was like, we had to pay the rent. He mentioned it a few times, what can we do to pay the rent? How many students do we need to pay the rent? Are we willing to do other things to pay the rent? And I think a lot of people don't go into big ventures in their life with that kind of passion.
It kind of bleeds into our recent conversation of having a plan B.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
yeah.
right?
They didn't have one.
They didn't have one.
They had things that were going to help them get through plan A,
right?
But it wasn't a plan B.
There was never a plan to retract or withdraw or go any other route.
Right. And Nick's got an education where he could probably be making.
Yeah. So this is the interesting
decent
part, right?
money.
This is you have somebody who's educated in the medical field, right? And somebody who could have a career, somebody who has an opportunity to do
to live a comfortable life.
Comfortable life. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, comfortable and safe from a steady paycheck perspective, right? And yet he chooses to go into a grind. He opens an academy, and some might not realize how much work it takes to really. I'm not talking about teaching classes. I'm talking about running operationally, having a business, being an entrepreneur. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of grind. Excuse me, to make it successful. and they do it right in the middle of the pandemic. I still can't believe
with
this.
no business experience.
With
Neither
no
one of
business-
them.
Mhm.
You know, they didn't even know how to start an LLC. They didn't know anything really about, you know.
So why is it so easy for us, right? So like, this is the interesting part to me. Like, we talked to Nick, and he's one of the handful that will go above and beyond to achieve his goal no matter what. Like, the no or failure is not even an option. You know, he'll do anything that it takes to be successful with the goal that he set for himself. But why is it so easy for the rest of us, so many out there, to say, screw this? You know what? This is too hard. There's a million other things that I could be doing. This is not worth it. And why do we give up so easy?
I don't know. I don't know if passion has something to do with it. Like, he has a passion for jiu-jitsu. He doesn't want to do anything else. And I think that might have something to do with it.
Well, what about for you? What about
about
for you? Do you find yourself in a spots like this, not necessarily opening an academy, but do you find yourself in a spots like this in life where you know this is what you want to do and you will do everything that it takes to do it? Or you're more inclined to be a safer person and say, I'd rather have a plan B and not rock the boat so bad?
I always fell back on plan B, or like the career, the job I had, because it was easy. But I didn't have a real passion for much either. There was nothing that I was like, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I just didn't have that, where I think if some people have that passion, it's probably much easier. And I think it's very easy for everyone, I think, to, life is what happens while you're making plans, or something like that. I've heard that quote, so it's very easy.
What does that mean? I've never heard that before.
No, it means, you're making plans for your future, in quotes. And life is what happens. You fall in love, you get married, you have kids, you buy a house, you do all those things, and those plans, that dream that you didn't really
I see what
set your goals for, just kind of,
fade
and then,
away.
yeah, it fades away, and then you have the excuse of whatever. I can't because of my kids. I can't because I'm too old. Or the real reasons could be, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I thought that was my passion. It wasn't. It could be legitimate too. It's not like a cop out. So I think it's easy to not fulfill those things. It's because life gets in the way. It's, we talk about it here a lot. Why aren't you training? Well, because life got in the way. My shift at work got changed. So I can't be here when you have scheduled classes. My wife's parents need help, so I'm over there doing that, or I have to, we're moving, or we had another baby, I can't afford it.
So are those excuses, or are those reasons?
It's up to the individual, isn't it? If they really want to train jiu-jitsu, but they say, I can't because of the schedule, well, then it's an excuse. If they don't really want to train and the schedule doesn't fit, well, then it's a reason. I don't really, it's not a passion of mine. I don't really want to invest all this time. And now my schedule doesn't allow for it. Well, then I think it's a legit reason. I think it's up to the individual and what their goals and what they want to get out of it is.
So is it healthy to have this attitude of rent's got to get paid and we got to do everything, we'll go above and beyond?
There's extremes with everything, right? So if you're neglecting your other responsibilities, well, then maybe it's not so great. But we're talking about two young guys that, have, at least one of them has a girlfriend. I don't know, Daniel's personal story, but they didn't have, the only thing they had to lose probably was money and respect. And they went in with all the money, but had a plan. And now they're seeing the fruits of that. So I think that, got to pay the rent is a great attitude for people like that.
I think in a way we do that. Everybody does that, just with different things. Like, think about it. Like, mortgage got to get paid for most people. You know, for most people, maybe there are some who don't care about that, but for most people, it's like, mortgage got to get paid. You know, I got to do whatever it takes to pay that mortgage because I'm going to lose the house, right? So do you think that it boils down to the priority of what we are trying to achieve?
Well, I think a lot of times people don't see that you can pay the mortgage doing what you love if you put in the time and the effort. Where because, okay, take Nick and Danny, for example. People are like, you're crazy. It's the middle of a pandemic. All these gyms are shutting down. People are going out of business, and you're going to open up a gym. And they said, well, look, in outside of Philly, the restrictions aren't that great. They bought a place outside of Philly that was ready to go. It sounds like, not that it didn't come with students, but it came. They had a location, they had mats, it looked like it, and all that stuff. I just think that it's easy for people to not see that they can pay the rent and still do what they love. They can make what they love pay the rent.
Why do you think that happens?
It's scary. It's scary. You have a 9 to 5, and it's like, if I go off this other direction, and I don't have the 9 to 5 anymore, well, then if I fail, the rent's not going to get paid. The mortgage isn't going to get paid. My kids, whatever, isn't going to get paid. And I think it could be real scary, legitimate fears where people are like, you know what? It's not worth the risk to them. Either they could be scared, but they could also be looking at it very, thoughtfully and say, you know what? It's not worth the risk. It's just not. If this academy fails, if this dream I have in any way fails, it's not worth.
So this is the interesting
risk reward, right?
Right. Well, yeah, we talk about this often on this show, but even with conversation with Nick, the whole perspective of potentially failing was not even on the table.
I don't think we got that deep into it. We did the episode before with somebody else, but it just seems like. Yeah, I mean, you go into it with that attitude of nothing's going to stop me. That's great, but there could also be major setbacks along the way that you got to pick yourself up from. That if you are,
but see, this is the difference,
and you have a family, you have all these other things that hold more weight to you, that are a bigger priority to you. A house in the suburbs and a stable environment can legitimately be more important to someone than chasing after their dream.
Absolutely.
And
it boils down to priorities, right? What's more important to you? Priority versus risk, right? It's always the same conversations, no matter what, right? But I guess I'm wondering why do we have some of those guys or some of the people out there who are willing to risk these important things in life, to start a venture, to chase their dream, and others don't, right? What separates those two?
Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it a lack of fear? Who knows? Is it the relationships that they have? Or, if you say to your wife, I'm quitting this career to open up a gym, and she says, you're out of your effing mind. Well, that changes everything, doesn't it? Because there's a potential for really losing everything. If this other person in your life, husband, wife, whatever, doesn't support you, right? If they don't support you.
Well, this is where you gotta get a buy-in, right? You have to make that person believe in you more than you believe into the system, right?
Good luck with that.
Well, but like, I don't believe that these guys don't have a fear, like of things going not according to plan.
I'm sure late at night when nobody's around.
I'm sure they do. They just don't verbalize it. Right. They suppress it with a positive plan, with actions that they will be taking to minimize those risks. But I'm sure the fear of not going well is in the back of their mind. But I also do think there are a lot of those successful entrepreneurs they don't look at it as failure. They look at it as obstacle that will be resolved, because failure is like a power button, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A failure is end of all. You failed. You're done. An obstacle is something that you can fix. A problem is something that you can fix. And I think some of them, or most of them, I think, the ones who are successful look at it that way. Pandemic happened. Okay, well, failure is not an option. What are we going to do to fix this, to get through it and continue being profitable, continue growing the business, continue evolving, continue going through the same goal, versus others will say, well, shit hit the fan.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what Nick talked about. It's like, okay, are we willing to, they did it. They bought it.
Right.
Okay. Now, are we willing to drive for Uber Eats if we don't have any members?
Right.
And they both said yes.
Right.
Right. So it's like, are you willing to do whatever it takes? And whatever it takes could be slightly, oh, my son just opened the academy. How's it going? Well, he'll let you know when he shows up with your food tonight.
Tip him well.
But yeah, help him out. 25%. But so is your attitude? I don't care what people think right now, because I'm going to make it happen.
And I think a lot of it boils down to that. I think a lot of us, we get hyper-focused what people think versus what we want.
Yeah.
Right. There was this quote that I recently read, which was very interesting. And I'm going to butcher it.
Yes.
100%. It was, don't spend your weekend hating life you have. Spend your weekend building life you want, or something along those lines. I would have to Google it.
Yeah, or the old Loverboy song, everybody's working for the weekend. That's the opposite side of it, right? Where you just want to get through the week.
Yeah, but it's interesting, how our lives unfold, and we continue driving through these goals, and continue trying to achieve the milestones that we envisioned for ourselves. But a lot of it does boil down to what you talked about before. It is the risk versus the reward. It is the, what are you willing to do to get this accomplished? And do you accept the failure as one of the options? I mean, I think all of these things are very important part of the success. And even on the mat, bridging this into jiu-jitsu, like all of that is available and accessible as we go through these troubleshooting sessions, because that's essentially what it is. It's a troubleshooting session, right? Just in a different scale and a different circumstances.
Yeah, I think, everybody fails on the mats, and it's what you do afterwards. I think that's why a lot of people wash out, is because you're going to have more failures than successes, and they can't deal with that, and they don't want to come back.
It's hard
the next day after, getting smashed the day before and tapping out, or, some guys don't tap. And, they just won't do it. And their partner is smart enough. Well, their partner is smart enough to move on. But I would think that hopefully with those guys too, when nobody's around and it's dark, are they thinking about, at least I didn't tap, or are they thinking about, how do I not get in that position again?
Well, do they? Or maybe they don't.
I don't know. I think when they don't, they stop showing up.
Well, that's the thing.
Right. And if they're sitting alone going, well, how did he get into that position instead? Right. When you're paying the rent, you got to think about, how do I not get in that situation?
Yeah. Reflecting on our decisions and the events that happen to us is a big part of what decisions we make in the future.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Are we done here?
Oh, that's what you want to be done. I want to talk more, but
So Nick also talked a lot about Philly cheesesteaks, and so I'm a little hungry. So I'm willing to get out.
One of the funnier episodes, I think. We had fun. It was a lot of fun. If you haven't listened, tune in. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's a good time. All right, peace.
Later.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.